Can we hear now that I have host privileges, I can do.
I know, and you probably should.
You got to start it because it says so.
Can we hear JT?
No.
Joe, I can't hear you still.
He's been silent. Go off and refresh your screen, Joe, and come back on and see if that clears it up. Sometimes I see that happen. Okay, we got rid of Joe. Now let's talk. He can still hear us, though. It'll be fun. Michael can join us if he wants. There he is.
There's who?
Michael.
Oh, there's Michael. Okay. Wherever you, there's Michael.
Oh, there he is. Oh, I see water. He's like out in the ocean or something.
Joe says, "Take Michael."
He has a better scenery, Joe.
Oh wow!
Oh wow! What are you?
Wait, I can drive to the beach in just 2 minutes.
I could have got on at Red Robin. I don't think y'all would have been all that impressed. So
awesome! Welcome, Michael.
We are here on Phillip Island.
There he goes.
The penguins
are. Oh, all right. So we're recording, so we should probably get down to business so people
We lost Michael.
Oh.
Michael's gone. Oh, there.
We can still give him props. There you are. All right. Hey, Michael.
Hey, how are you?
Welcome. Okay, welcome to the Build to Grow Summit Blab session on Saturday night. I appreciate you showing up. This is for recording purposes. We will be sort of revising or reviewing maybe what's been going on for the last 2 days in the summit. We've got a Build to Grow Summit going on for 3 days, and it's an amazing array of talent. And there are so many pearls of wisdom to be gained from this. So what I'd like to do is open it up to anybody who wants to talk about what they've gained from being involved. We have several speakers here right now, and talk about what we've gained in terms of just the wisdom from this collective. It's an unusual array of people, but it's awesome. So if you want to start, Melody, what have you gained from these people we are working with right now?
You know, it's been a fun project to be on because we have such a variety of talent and experience, and just learning from the different experience everybody's had. Yeah. That's been a really good learning experience for me anyway. And just, you know, like Sharon's doing the social media. So watching, you know, what you and Olivier's been doing has been interesting because I'm kind of a pseudo social media person. I've actually been named in the corporation that I work for as one of the social media people, and we're just starting. So it's going to be fun to see that, but it's fun to watch what you've done, and I'm going to be able to apply that as I get into this new role in my my corporate job. So that part's been fun as well. But it's been an interesting road we've journeyed on with this. And the virtual summit, I actually had somebody trying to get on the Blab. So that's what I was doing when you were doing. I was sending them the link. So hopefully they'll get on in a few minutes too. So
awesome. And Michael, tell us, you're on a tight schedule today, I know. So let us know what's going on with you and what you can share and glean from what we've been up to.
Yeah, no, thank you. It's great. Yeah, and one of the things I always love is really that variety of speakers, all this expertise and that mix, which makes each event unique and very, very special. I think personally, the whole concept and ideas of virtual summits is just at the beginning. Yes, you see more and more of those, but it's really evolving quickly. Similar to where webinars were a few years back, and now they are quite common instrument. And the same, I think, will apply for virtual summits. And we can see that now, where kind of the corporate world is picking it up, associations is picking it up, all kind of things, and it will quickly evolve.
Cool.
So I think
and Sharon, you've been up to some amazing things with you and Olivier. What's going on with you?
We have Nikki. Thanks, and I'm talking to you here from Edmonton, Canada. I don't have an ocean in my behind here, but I could show you some snow. if we want to go that way.
That's okay.
From my perspective, this has been truly an awesome experience on two levels, really on multiple levels. The first is really taking a look from a number of different perspectives about operating business in the digital world, really compared to the traditional world of nurturing and customer and growing business. The second aspect, of course, is doing it from a technical perspective as well, such as this audit, which is new for me.
Yeah. So
the moving in the world of digital marketing, online marketing, and also taking opportunities or building a business based on the new world that we're operating in here in the 21st century, from many levels, really tells us that there are new skills to learn, there are new visions to behold, and there are new technicalities that really must be mastered on all levels, from the members of the C-suite through to every individual in a small business, whether they're going to handle those tools themselves or within a large organization where everybody has to be trained. So from that perspective, it has been a whirlwind of learning experiences for me as well, especially, well, from everyone in this Blab. Nikki, with your multitasking, your multi-technical approaches to building customers, to the ability to make a webinar useful, and growing our customers and nurturing customers, from Melody. And of course, Michael, this brand new, I think, conceptual addition to bringing many people together for a learning experience. So bravo to all of us.
Thank you. So Melody, you've been working with Fortune 500 companies for years, and you specialize in webinars. You've been doing these forever. So what does it mean for the new entrepreneur, for the new CEO in a maybe a smaller corporation, to bring webinars to the table, and how can they monetize based on using this technology?
It's interesting. I think because webinar technology, the price of it has become affordable,
Yeah.
And I think for the smaller companies to realize they don't have to think small, that they can reach people globally. Even if they're not a global company, even reaching people across the city, across the state, across a region, depending on what their business is, webinars afford them ability to do that. Mm-hmm. They can, I did a webinar for my corporate job on Friday. We had 400 people on it. And we were able to use polls to engage. And actually, I posted on my Facebook group that I had a question answer on there, and somebody was laughing about that. And I haven't gone back, but I meant to go back and tell them, we've been doing these for a while, these big widespread webinars, and to have somebody specifically on there to answer questions that has a similar background as me, because these are technical webinars. What happens with that is, at the end of the day, I don't have as much to do, because they can answer them live. And that's why we did it, because we're a very small team and we're really busy. So I can, there's a lot of times I'll do these webinars and I'm on a plane an hour later. So it's like, I don't have time to answer the questions after the fact. So by doing that, not only did I benefit, but also the customers and clients on the phone or on the webinar benefited, because they got their questions answered immediately.
Awesome.
And so, being able to have that kind of reach with people. And then it's been really interesting, because these global webinars we've been doing, I was actually asked by one of our marketing people, have people reached out directly to you and asked you questions? I'm like, oh yeah. And some of them have been kind of funny, because we have a certification program, and I had a lady reach out because she had the same issue I had on a webinar. I was demoing software during her certification. And she reached out to me to figure out how I solved it. And I was like, I was able to answer and help her so that she could go back and take her certification in that product and, be able to pass and use that in her career. So you never know when those lines cross and stuff. So for those small companies, that's what I would suggest. It gives you the ability to get that message out.
I have a question.
Yes.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Oh, hi, Melody. You're certified in doing webinars, and you're a very technical person. We know that you've got some serious credentials behind you. For the business person who doesn't have you on board, is it best to hire your type of service, or is it best for that company to try and figure it out for themselves? What do you recommend there?
You know what? I recommend that they either hire somebody to help them, or they like the case I was just talking about. We actually have one of our marketing people that hosts all of our webinars. Even though I know how to do this, when you have 400 people on there, I can't efficiently host, present, and do everything. And so he actually sets up all the stuff. We always get on 30 minutes early. I'm an analytical person, so I need I want to feel good about it. So we get on early, we test everything. He gets on and introduces it, does all the housekeeping. I do polls on mine, so he starts the polls for me, and then he turns it over to me. And then at the end, I go back. Now, I could do all that stuff myself, but it doesn't make sense. It's not efficient, and it's not really serving the attendees on there for me to try to do all of it myself.
So especially if a customer, that I get a lot of challenges from CEOs who are saying, how are we going to build business using these tools? And there's some pushback, I will say.
Yeah.
So the first thing I would like them to do is build their lists and their customer lists on either Twitter. Let's just focus on Twitter, for example.
Yeah.
So if I've got a client with maybe a couple of thousand followers now on Twitter, and we want to try and see if we can't convert some of those followers to potential customers, and we want to do a webinar, we then would be in our best interest to bring in a webinar producer such as yourself and then invite them to a webinar. Is that correct?
Yeah. And you know what? It depends on what level you're doing. And what I mean by that is, you can get on something like Blab, and the technical expertise in general doesn't need to be as much as if you're doing like a live cast where you're broadcasting from a studio and you have multiple cameras and all that kind of stuff. So there's something I'll call Blab simple, and then you go up to the live casting. So it really depends on where you are on that spectrum as to how much help you really need. I would say if a company's of a small size, usually there's somebody in there that can either learn the skill set, and then be the person that, leads that. I do that for my team. I'm the one that knows webinars. So whenever we get new, like we just upgraded we use WebEx. So we just upgraded it last year, and it was a big change for us. Mm-hmm. And so I took the lead and went and did it, and then taught everybody on our team kind of how to use it. So, you need that kind of thing. But yeah, that's what I would do. I would either task it somebody on the team. And the good thing is there's a lot of training now. When I started 15 years ago, we didn't even know what webinars were. We're like telling our customers, here, we're going to send you a link and you'll be able to hear and see us, not see us, but see our presentation. And, it was like magic, but now most people know what webinars are. So you're not having too much to train the attendees. Blab, we're still having to train attendees, right? They don't know what that is, but webinar services, most people know. They get a link, they click on it, and they can watch and hear what you're doing. So,
So Melody, speak to the fact that there's so much terminology going on out there. There's webinars, there's webcasts, there's live casts. What are the naming conventions here, and what should we be listening
Yeah, you know what? For me, I tend to use the word webinar for everything. So that's just me, mainly because the terminology came from different technology, and the different technology offered you different features and functions. Now, almost all of them offer you similar things. The behind the scenes technology may be different, but the fact that I can go, streaming video, or I can share my screen, I can record it. Almost all of them do that. It's how they do it in the background that's different now. So, webinars were, started, they were online seminars. That's where it came from. So you could, share your screen, share slides, and talk in the background. Webcasts were more like broadcasts. So I could do streaming video. And they actually came out before webinars, which is kind of interesting. People don't realize it, but you had to have the technology to make that happen. And then like web conferencing and things like that, that was more of a kind of like Blab, you got together with your team and they had the ability to like share screens, and not just share screens, but I could give, Nikki control over my screen so we could collaborate and stuff like that. So that's generally the difference in terms, but almost all of them offer all of those things now. So whatever they call themselves, usually you can do all that.
So in the Fortune 500 scene, are you finding that webinars are a return on investment type of deal, or is it more of an education and or collaboration?
It's
deal?
Both. I mean, we use them for everything. I do mostly what we call knowledge transfer. In the corporate world, there's politics. So we actually have an education division. So I don't do education because I would be stepping on their toes, right? So I do knowledge transfers, but same difference, okay? But we also, I worked in pre-sales for a long, long time as a technical person. So we sold $1 million solutions. And Joe knows this. He's done it too, probably, $1 million solutions over webinars. So it was not that unusual, or at least not in the last few years. And that's especially as you go globally. So if you're trying to sell a solution across, a global company, it's real hard to get all those people in the same room because they're located all over the world. But with a webinar, you can get them all in there. You can hear all their objections. You can answer all their objections, and you can move that sales cycle a lot faster. So the biggest one that's been interesting for me, because working for a software company, we have a technical support group, and they were the most resistant to use webinars. They really have only started to use them the last couple of years across the board. There were a few people that would use them. But the big key there, it's two-sided. I'm in a customer loyalty role now. So what I found is we have fabulous tech support. But what happens is tech support would give them an answer and the customer didn't understand it and they were too embarrassed to ask. So the problem never got solved. Where they can get on a webinar and show them exactly what they're saying and the problem gets solved. And even more funny, and I did this in the virtual summit, I used this example, and we've all seen the commercial with the people coming in mimicking their car noise. My car is making this blow up in the noise and the mechanic's trying to figure out what's wrong. Well, that's what happens in tech support. The customer comes in and says, I'm having this problem, but they don't always know the right terminology to say what the problem is. And so if they can get on a webinar and show technical support, or I've had them show me issues, then I'm like, oh, I know what the issue is. Now let me go find you a solution. So, and then we use it for education. We have courses from an hour to 5 days long, actually, that you can take online courses. And so, there's so many different ways people can use webinars. But
I have a question for you, Nikki. I listened to your presentation and wow, the live cast opportunities that you described, the whole suite of them, was such a terrific, again, list of opportunities. But my whole mission is finding new customers for business people, for business growth. That's my whole gig. And what you talked about are the tools to be able to muster some of those, those developments, those opportunities. But I really want to back up to see, how do you find those potential customers using those tools? How can we build a list using your tools?
Yeah, that's an excellent question, because that is really the most important thing for companies that are truly starting to get into a digital marketing world. In many cases, they don't really have a very good list, if they have a list at all. It's come from visiting a trade show and collecting business cards and maybe or maybe not entering those email addresses into some kind of database. And so what we're doing is digitizing the marketing effort and the promotional effort in such a way that it's easier to transact, if you would, or gather those email addresses to build your list, which is your first foray into building a nurture kind of sequence or a campaign where you reach out to people, you educate them, you give them stuff for free, and then eventually ask them for a sale. That seems to be the right method of going through a sales funnel. And so with digital marketing, you have so many ways of gathering these emails and putting them to use. And so what we do is we basically say, look, if you're at a conference and you're speaking to an audience and they don't give you the list of people who are in attendance, what you can do is from stage basically ask people in a mobile cast situation to text their email to a certain phone number on their phone or their tablet, whatever they have with them. And I've actually had clients do this from stage and basically convert 100% of the room, which is unheard of. And even in situations where speakers go to an event and they get the list of people who are in attendance, they never follow up. And so what we do is we teach people to do this sequential campaign, a nurture campaign basically, where you send out a thanks for attending, here's my slides from the presentation that you saw. I'm going to show you this in the next couple of months. We've got something else rolling out, follow up a couple of weeks later and basically nurture them into a sequence where they basically eventually buy from you.
I'll just add, because what you're describing is CRM, customer relationship management. That's from a corporate world, that's what it's called. And so it's collecting, building your list, and not just the list of names, but where they came from. Because that allows you to know how hot they are or cold or warm, whatever word you want to use. And also allows you to segment your customer list so that you can market to them in the right way. So that's, from a corporate side, that's what we'd call it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, great question. Thanks, Sharon. So Joe, you're talking about reputation management in this summit. So talk to us a little bit about that. All of us are worried that when we get a bad review, what do we do?
True. I hope you can hear me.
Yes.
Hey.
Yes.
Good job.
It's that bouncing out and coming back in. You're right. I just want to follow up with what both you and Melody talked about. CRM, once you get that information, you really need to use data analytics to pull it all together so that you can draw all sorts of graphs and charts and everything, find out what segment of the marketplace they came from, what you can break it out, titles, any way you want to splice and dice the information and have it come up with, so you can go after, we had 100 engineers on the phone, we had 3 CEOs on the phone, we had 8 CMOs on the phone. It's like, whoa, maybe this thing is working very well for the engineers. We should target them completely, and maybe we should do one especially for the CX teams, that type of thing. Getting back to reputation management, it's amazing what's gone on in the industry in the last 5 or 6 years with reputation management, because everything is available 24/7, 365. And anybody puts anything they want out there, and you don't know where it is if you don't have the analytics. You don't use
the good, bad, and the ugly.
And the worst and ugly. The example I just used this past week was the most double-sided reputation management crisis I've ever seen. Matter of fact, probably the first. It was Land's End, and everybody knows that that's had 100% untarnished name for years and years and years. The best shirts, the best, never any customer service problem. You put out a monthly magazine, that shows some of the products, the shirts, the ties, and all that. And each time they send it out, there's an article in there that they have somebody write. Well, this time it was Gloria Steinem. And immediately, I know, Melody, and this time immediately we got feedback from the pro-life people going, what the hell is going on? What's happening here? How dare you put this woman in the magazine? And get this, nothing in the article was pro-life or against life. It was just an article about women coming up in the industry. That didn't make any difference. And then, at the same time, all of a sudden it was the one, it was pro-life. What's the other one? Pro-life is your choice, and the other one is?
Pro-choice.
Pro-choice. Thank you.
Sure.
Not being a woman, I keep forgetting those. But still, great women's rights. They got in on it, and they said, how dare you do this, this, and this. And for the first time ever, I just was totally blown away going, now they've got two different sides they have to appease, and how are they going to do that? And again, reputation management, if you prepare for a crisis when it happens, and you have your C-level executives involved in operations and marketing and your attorneys, and that's all you have to do is push a button and everybody's on the phone or everybody's on a webinar. You can immediately respond rather than waiting 1, 2, 3, 4 days to your 20 million in the hole. Well, they came back out. I don't want to say it was immediately, but within probably half a day. And to appease them both, they go, we're so sorry we did this to everybody. Our intent wasn't to do that. And again, it was never brought up in the article. We're taking the article down out of the magazine. And from now on, we're not going to be doing articles in the future magazine. That just totally blew my mind. I've never seen a double-header like that before. So,
well, you can look at, and I don't want to talk politics, but you can look at the political things going on right now and really see how even teeny tiny things like there was one for Hillary Clinton, something she mentioned about Nancy Reagan. I don't even remember what it was now, but I think she gave them credit. Oh, I know what it was. She gave the Reagans credit for doing a lot for HIV. And people came out, no, they didn't, and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I'm sitting there thinking, okay, what's the big deal? But, there's people that are really sensitive about different things. Same thing with what happened to Trump in Chicago.
Yes.
There's people on both sides. One side's blaming Trump and one side's blaming Bernie Sanders and one side's just blaming Chicago, I think. So it's, and some of it, and they may all have a valid point. I don't know, but it's being able to manage that.
One of the things with reputation management is. Oh, go ahead. You have a question?
Hi, GT. I've had a CEO question me on a bad review for his customer product. So there's two options. Number one, can we release positive reviews to push down those negative reviews on Google, number one? Or number two, is it best to simply answer the question head on from the CEO to the complainant? And or number three, pass it on to sales to chase it down and then give various perspectives?
Somebody from the C-level, not exactly the CEO, needs to address it up front.
I saw Kodak do that with somebody. I think it was on Twitter. This has been a couple of years ago, but somebody had posted a real negative something about experience they had with a Kodak printer, and this I think it was the CMO called up the person on the phone, and the person couldn't believe they called. And they're like, look, we want to know what's going on. We don't, we want to help you. And that person, they said, I was at a conference, so they said that he would actually call people. He didn't call everybody because wouldn't be able to, but he called a lot of people, and it really started changing the tide for Kodak and how people were perceiving their printers at the time. So,
it's so bad because I grew up in Rochester where Kodak and Xerox are, and God forbid they didn't keep on top of things, and they got, other companies ate their drawers. And the strange thing is, Kodak developed the digital camera.
Yep.
Xerox had everything that Mac is, and they let it walk right out the door. It's like, well, we're into selling chemicals, photochemicals. And Xerox, well, what are we going to do with a WYSIWYG and a mouse and everything? We sell paper and ink and that type of thing. And it was like, and Steve Jobs walks in and just says, give me a tour of your Palo Alto research. And he just takes it all the way out the door. Didn't have to pay a nickel for it. But going back to reputation management, with good software, we can actually take a tweet, for example, that goes out and it all of a sudden becomes viral and it goes to 500,000, 1 million people. we can actually drill all the way back down from where the tweet started to the person that started it. So you can address that person immediately. What are your concerns? What are your problems? What can we do to rectify that? Would you mind retweeting afterwards that, perhaps I was mistaken or they told me they were going to do this? And that works out great. But you have to have people like that, just in the case of like Cox. If you tweet something out about Cox.net or Cox services, they have people 24/7 listening to everything that's going on the internet through all this different social media. You'll immediately get an answer back from somebody. How can I help you? What's going on? Can I get somebody like that? This is the way we do things. And that's where you nip it in the bud. And that's what these
And I've had that experience with a couple of companies. I don't know if I should mention all the companies, but we had some issues with Verizon, and we've had some really bad issues with Verizon, and we couldn't. I spent hours on the phone trying to get it resolved, and I finally just went on their Facebook page. They actually assigned a representative to me.
Listeners.
Within 30 minutes.
Yep.
And, I was like, now I know how to do it, and it was something I couldn't resolve. It was, they're so large. And when you have a problem it's a blip on their screen, you got to get to the right person. So I've seen that. And then the other thing I've seen that to me works really well, and this is for small companies, if I go out to like Yelp or somewhere like that and it's a restaurant, especially, like I was looking at one restaurant we'd never been to, and I always kind of look at the reviews because, I'm not a foodie. So you can kind of look at the reviews and see who are the foodies, who wants the white cloth, no kids, that kind of stuff. You can read them and figure it out. But one in particular here locally I was watching or went out and looked at the reviews, and anytime anybody posted anything positive or negative, somebody from that restaurant, I'm assuming it was the owner, would come back and go, "Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, we're trying to resolve that right now," or "Here's what we've done," or whatever. And to me, we went to the restaurant, even though there was some negative reviews, because I knew they were acknowledging it and trying to fix it, or they did fix it. Because a lot of times they go, we're trying to fix it. And later you come back and go, "Okay, here's what we're doing. We got a new vendor for that," or whatever.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
If you have something wrong with your product, or people are just starting to complain about it, you have to get out in front of it. And you say, "Oh, by the way, we just want to alert everybody that's using our product that there's a little glitch in this type of thing. Here's what we're going to do. Here's where you can expect it to be resolved." Boom.
It's turning lemons into lemonade.
Exactly. The old style way of dealing with customer service was you pick up the phone, got an 800 number, hope you didn't get India, and get the thing, and they go, "Well, we don't know what it is. Wipe your computer clean and install the disks again." That's
reboot.
So now if you do it through social media, you'll get an immediate response. The phone doesn't work anymore. And speaking of Yelp, pardon me quickly, the federal courts upheld Yelp that it's okay for them not to take down bad reviews. And what they do is they hold the restaurant or business hostage, and you have to pay to advertise with them, and they'll diminish or delete those bad reviews. And everybody was hoping that this one veterinary guy would definitely win the case because everybody was behind him. And I cannot believe that the federal government said, "No, Yelp didn't do anything illegal."
Yeah.
Beware of that. And then with Yelp, always look at as many reviews as you can and see how many positive compared to negative, and then go with what you want.
Yeah. And I think on Yelp especially, you have to be careful because there's a lot of competitors that go and badmouth their competition, which it's you can almost tell which ones those are too. So I don't.
Yes.
If you don't know much, I guess they would affect the company. But if you do, you kind of go, "Yeah, competitor. Somebody that's got a grudge here. We'll let that one go."
If they're smart, they go out and address the influencers, which are the people that do nothing but constantly write Yelp reviews. And they try not to influence them, but just to tell them information about their company and hope that they do it. If you tell them, "Hey, why don't you write something?" they're just going to rip you apart.
Yeah.
Hey, I have a question for the whole group here then. On the top, you brought up influencers, JT, and there's a big discussion going on around now about whether they should be paid or not. Influencer paid for those reviews or not?
No.
Here's an authentic guy.
Yeah, and I personally challenge and I've seen a lot of radio and TV people. And also, you know, when the woman goes on your morning news and she's like the guru of cosmetics, and she's going to show you the top 10 things of cosmetics. I use this blush, I use this lipstick, and it's like they're all paid. That person is paid by the people that they're recommending the products on, and they don't do it. So I've questioned a couple of them saying, hey, it would be nice if you would be honest with your viewers. And when the person goes on and say, well, this person's a paid representative of these companies, that type of thing, and let us make the judgment. Or when the stars go on now and they do a short 5-minute interview, well, somewhere along the line, this is about my movie, and at the end it goes, oh yeah, about that hemorrhoid cream. I use it under my eyes.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you go, wait a minute, why would they bring that up?
I can speak to that from a publisher's point of view, from the traditional world. We used to have to claim and publish advertise. This is an advertising sponsored feature, and this was the law essentially. Mm-hmm. And if we did not claim that position, there was we were all under suspicion. But it's got away from us, of course, in the digital world, where those people who are probably getting paid, many of them are not going public with their credentials. Yet people are also, the other side of this equation is that those influencers who have spent many years now building up their a long line of followers, and there's a lot of effort that has gone into building their influential followings, that they should now be able to make a living by getting paid for influencing their followers. So that's the debate.
I think we owe it to ourselves as a community in general that if we are being influenced by somebody in that community that's following that person needs to check, or just happen to find out, hey, I found out that what they were talking about last week, they were getting paid to do. And then you'll find out other people will start looking around a little bit. Next thing you know, it's public. They're getting paid, and then you make your own judgment.
It's still buyer beware, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, and I think from their standpoint, I don't think it's a bad thing to say I'm being paid. I'm a representative or whatever. I mean, I have a resource page on my website, and I put on there, some of these links are affiliate. If you buy from it, I'll get, a dime or two.
Perfect.
So, and it is what it is. I don't have a problem with that. And if they tell me they're getting paid, I would have a lot more credibility with me, even what they're saying. I'd say, okay, they're being paid, so I know that. But hey, they have an opinion, and there's a reason why they really like this, kind of thing.
And I don't mind when they say, I use this product for years.
Yeah.
The Vino with Jennifer Aniston. I've used this product for years. They've been bugging me to be a paid person. Yes, I use the product for years, and I'm getting paid for it. Bingo.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Exactly. I don't think it takes anything away from it.
So Yael has joined us, and she brought up a really good point, and she says that Whole Foods is getting unpaid promotion due to a controversial topic. And so that this is kind of an interesting point too, where you can create a media buzz and or fall into a media buzz, which is the Whole Foods example here, where somebody, they're basically dealing with a suicide issue and raising money and getting promotion because of the fact that it's an emotional deal, and they're basically gaining from that. And it's not something that they planned, it's not something that they paid for, but there are situations where people can really capitalize on and go viral with certain kinds of news.
I'll say, I know a little bit of what y'all was talking about. I think there's a lot of companies out there that just don't know what to do with social media.
Exactly.
And Sharon, you may be able to talk more about it, but I can just see situations like this Whole Foods one where, they should, even if all they do is, say, hey, this is a bad thing, suicide's bad. Here's a couple of charities. They could do something like that. This is a public service message, and not, do much, and people would respect that. So, but we see it all the time where companies miss out on an opportunity that's there for them.
I would be bold enough to say that a full 90% of companies out there, big and small, marketing still doesn't connect with sales. And No one takes the position that I'm going to be the CXO and bring them both together and let's work together and I'll be the champion for this. It's still totally separate. They can treat them separate. I don't know why they can't break that.
Yeah, as Yael says, Whole Foods is not taking advantage of this opportunity.
Well, I can tell you.
That's kind of the blindsidedness of corporations.
That's funny. That happened to me. We were talking about these webinars earlier. We have webinars that have very similar names, you know, getting started with X product. Well, a lot of our products have very similar names. So the titles of them may just be one word different, but they're totally different products. And our marketing department had problems about a month or so ago. They couldn't tell the products apart or our titles apart. And for social media, and I'm sitting there going, well, why are you even using the title of this webinar in your social media? You should be saying something like, you know, if you want to learn X, then attend this webinar, and then a link that goes out, and on there it has the title. So the title shouldn't have anything to do with the social media, in my opinion. Sharon, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but it's, you know, because we're doing getting started and tips and tricks, you know, they're all named something like that with the product name on the end of it. So we do it for consistency. So customers that come out and go, oh, getting started, I attended one for this product, here's one for this product kind of thing. But from the marketing standpoint, it shouldn't matter. So in my, again,
I think I push back there a little bit, Melody. You know, branding associated with, you know, all the way back to the persona or the target audience. That's where we have to begin. And you're absolutely right that we want to be able to identify what need that particular product or service provides. However, as to naming, it really is just about not being lazy, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Let's look at this product, figure out an angle, figure out a kicker name, I give it an identity or a suite of products within an overall, and identify it that way. But it really needs some attention.
Yeah. From my standpoint, I have no input on the name of the product. I have input on the name of the webinar, the title of the webinar.
Yeah.
So I have no,
which is probably more important.
I'm stuck with the name of the product. It's beyond my scope. So
that's you know what, that's taking that's taking JT's perspective again. You know, sales and marketing really got to get it together closer in today's day and age. They've operated in two different worlds for decades, forever.
And almost every company, you know.
Almost every company. And if they got it together closer, you'd have a smoother rollout all down the line in many ways.
And the funny thing is we're actually working, I've worked with the company for 20 years. So I can tell you right now, we're way closer than we've ever been before, but we still have these, you know, these things still come up where, you know, someone's been tasked with it and they don't quite understand the task, I think sometimes. So.
Yeah, one of the things I cover in my chapter is the fact that the CXO, which is all of the silos at the chief executive officer level, are basically blurring because technology and marketing are coming together in such a way that you can't have separate departments anymore, separate silos anymore. Or if you do, you basically have to have somebody, which I'm calling a chief digital officer, in between, who has the board level mentality of strategy, who has the ear of the CEO, but then influences all of the other CXOs. So chief marketing officer, chief technology officer, all of them, because they basically need to have this overview of what the heck are we doing and how do we say this and how do we execute this on the level of going down.
And I could say the company I work for, actually, we've gone to, I work in the umbrella above me is called customer engagement. And so now they've put, you know, I'm in customer loyalty, we have tech support in there, we have education, and we have consulting in there. So we're all the touch points of the customer, so to speak. And where these used to be silos, like exactly what you described. Now, any project I'm on, I mean, I just reached out last week to somebody in each one of those other divisions to say, hey, we're doing a project and we need somebody in your group to review it. You know, we're not in our silo anymore. So
I think we're all coming at this from onto the same page and from each of the quadrants here, because in our chapter, the social CEO, Olivier Topin and I are in agreement exactly with what you're saying, Nikki. We've maybe given it a different title. We're calling it the social media marketing, VP level. But what we're asking and proposing that there is a representative from every single department that comes together across channels, across borders, and so that those strategies are cohesive in their delivery, beginning to include sales, marketing, operations, community relations, outreach, public affairs, all of those. And that they come out with that consistent messaging through agreement.
Right.
Yeah.
And what we're trying to do with this book, we basically have been instigating the concept of outsourcing that role, where you would come to people like us who kind of get the big picture, and you come into an organization and you evaluate across all silos, and then you make recommendations and you basically evaluate in that way. So it's an interesting situation where, do you hire this person to be the overall supervisor of digital, or do you outsource this to somebody who really has the expertise and team, because we all have access to the people that can execute any aspect of it without the cost of bringing in employees that may or may not have that broad.
I can tell you from the computer side, the CIO and the IT group, 95% of all companies now, their budgets for the year for them is 1%. Well, how can they do that and maintain what they have and try to do something new? Now, how can you do that with 1%? You can't. All they can do is maintain.
Wow.
And so that's all they have. They have to outsource, and which takes it from an operational expense to a regular expense that's just a payout type thing, and it still keeps them within their 1%. So all
So that's really interesting, Joe. I want you to really capitalize on this moment, because taking from somebody else's budget is key to doing something really excellent in your corporation. So can you talk more to that?
And what they tell us is that I love your product when they want to outsource to me or use me as a consultant. We want you to do it. Right. We've had 21 and 31-year-olds in here, and I can't trust my company's brand with them, but I can trust you. And I go, for once, being old comes as and weathered comes into play. But then when
gray hair means something here.
And when they sign with us, they go, at least I can sleep at night because I with you or you're older. And when they sign with us, I am perfectly honest when I'm charging you 3 times as much as what they're doing. And all those 21-year-olds and 30-year-olds, they work for us. And they go, I don't care because I can trust my brand with you. That's what they said. And what they tell you is, if you can show me where I can save somewhere in my 1%, any amount of money where I can reapply it, then I can spend that money on you. So you have to get in there and really say, well, if you do this a little bit differently, and they love it because then it makes them look good. Because if they don't show they're contributing to the top line now, not the bottom line anymore, like a CIO used to be there 15 years, they're gone in 4 or 2.
Yeah, I've seen the same thing on my side, and it may be that we're kind of in that time zone right now where that 25-year-old person you're talking about, JT, they really don't have those sales, marketing, strategic thought patterns yet available to them. Yet that older person, let's say, maybe hasn't got the awareness of the digital world yet either. So where the workforce is not yet trained adequately, actually they're not even the young people are trained adequately to connect the dots strategically. So we're in these in-between years where they haven't trained the workforce yet to hire that correct person that you're talking about. And so the advantage for them is to hire out, contract out for, the gray hair and the strategic minds that can fill that bill. And I've had many, many conversations from organizational leaders who have, particularly in the world of, again, social leadership, let's say, or marketing strategies. They've hired a technical person with hoping that they could be able to deliver on the communication, sales, and marketing side. And that was a big mistake for them. They had to fire them, right? They had to let them go, essentially. And now they're switching around to try and find those communications people, sales and marketing people with some technical background behind them. So
that's where we come in. And that's the whole point. What we're trying to do is convey the fact that corporations can't employ all of the talent that they need, because it just doesn't exist. You can't train and maintain all of that with a reasonable budget. So why not outsource at a definite premium price somebody who has access to all of the talent? And you don't have to deal with it as a corporation. So this is a real key point. And this is why in my presentation, I basically said 62% of the technology and digital marketing is outsourced because of this very fact, because they can't handle keeping up with what's moving and moving so fast.
Even more is out. I think Joe's point about the 1%, I see that, and because I go into all these large companies, and it's amazing to me how much stuff is outsourced. And the truth is, some of what's outsourced, from my standpoint, not from what you're talking about, is she's hiding from me.
No, it's like they have blinders on.
Exactly. They don't see
that
what the cost is going to be later on. You know, because like I work for a software company, and they'll get a consultant to come in and do something, but then they don't really own what the consultant does. So, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, when the technology changes, whatever they had done no longer works. So there's a short-sightedness or blind-sightedness there for some of that kind of stuff. So, but I was surprised about 1%, but that makes sense for some of the stuff I've been seeing, especially here lately. Oh no, we lost your sound again, Joe.
There isn't a single company that I've been to in the last, I would say, 2 years. The 1% is an across the board, even with IT across. It's that slim. And then they have a chief marketing officer. They bring in a chief digital officer. They bring in a chief compliance officer, because you got to deal with Sarbanes-Oxley, Dodd-Frank, and all that. They're spending money legally. They have to, because legally the government is telling them to do it, and they still don't know what's going on. They've got all these titles, and I go, once you outsource this stuff, I'm happy to have somebody sitting next to me while they're doing it and to help you train on the inside, and I can kind of tell if they're still going to get it. And then call me in afterwards, but let me do it for you now. Because if you're not in the top 3 in your industry, within the next couple of years, you're gone. You're irrelevant. Nobody goes to your website unless they're looking specifically for your company and one piece of information. If you're not doing everything on social media and you're not covering your butt with reputation management, bye-bye.
Yeah. True that. So we're over an hour now. So can we just maybe do a round robin and some last words from each of us? Melody?
Oh, I'm first. Yeah, I think the real point is that technology has made it, I think, harder for companies to stay up, especially the I'll call them the medium size. The large ones have their own issues with it. They may have enough personnel, but it's totally shifting people, because you have to shift people on a regular basis. And I'll say this: the company I work for, everybody in R&D had to reapply for their job last year or year and a half ago. Everybody.
I've seen that.
The company's celebrating 40 years, though. How many computer software companies do you know that's been in business for 40 years?
Yeah.
So it was time. It was hard. I'll say it was a hard thing for the company and the people inside. It gave a lot of anxiety. And I think it relates back to what we're saying, though. Things are changing, and you need to have people that can help you stay in the lane, and really providing your customers and your employees with what they need to do their job and be very successful at it.
They're trying to find out if they've kept up with their skills and continued to learn over the last 40 years. And if they haven't and they're stuck in their way,
And that's exactly what happened. I mean, it's two pieces of it. You know, you came to our company and you supported something 40 years ago, or we'll say 30, because the stuff 40 years ago is still being used. It's the foundation. That's the truth. It's good stuff. Yeah, but, you know, there's been other products. There's been the cycle up and down. And if you got, actually, I had a friend that was in tech support at one point, and she was laughing. She said, I support all the dying products. And she said, you know, it's stuff they're dying. We can't just stop supporting it because people are still using it. But she said, you know, we're a small and mighty group. And then the next one that gets kind of downsized, that gets thrown in our bucket. And she said, but that's what she did. Well, if you were supporting that dying product in R&D, she was in tech support, and that product's no longer there. Now, what are you doing? You know, so, you know, you've got to find that new path. And so.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. Sharon.
Well, I'm on a mission to educate the C-suite as to their mindset. I want to start there, because I don't believe anything will happen inside a corporate life, whether it's small business or big business, unless that individual who's providing the vision and the leadership really understands or gets that mindset. He or she does not necessarily have to have the technical skills. Those can be contracted out, or have the correct person deliver on the correct skills. But if that leader doesn't get it, he or she cannot support the budget and or the implementation or the leadership to have it rolled out properly for everybody within the organization. So that's what I'd like to see.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
I think you're pretty much hurting at the end if you're not the top three, you're out. And the thing is that I'm fortunate throughout my extended career that I've had both the software side for 35 years and always been at those companies with all the bleeding edge products that those companies brought out. And when they become leading edge or mainstream, I bailed out and I went and found the next software product that we were bringing out that was bleeding edge and nobody had. So I always stood ahead of the crowd so that I knew what could I make money with immediately, because they needed this technology. Otherwise, they were going to run behind again. So I put on both my hats. I've had my own companies now since 2005, and I come from being a media disruptor and a bleeding edge technologist and IT and sales. So I'll go in and just tell them exactly what they need to do.
Yeah.
But focused on ROI.
And you, Nikki, how about you?
Yeah, Nikki.
Yeah, from my perspective, basically, you know, if a company is not socially competent, I use the example in my chapter of the book, Social Influence Score. Yeah. If the CXOs are not active out there, they're not going to attract the right talent as employees. So if you want good employees as a company, you need to be showing that you are cutting edge and that you are involved and engaged in this possibility of being this digital marketing entity. Because basically, I think it's, 72% of the population make their decisions to buy before they even get to your website. And so you need to be out there. You need to be on any device, in any format, anywhere in the world that people are looking to research what they want to buy. And so if you're not on Twitter and Facebook and YouTube and Amazon and iTunes and the Apple Store, you're not going to go anywhere, because people are using smartphones and tablets to the point that even desktop PCs are almost obsolete at this point in people's buying decisions. And so it's really important that companies have this social influence reputation of being cutting edge and really knowing what's going on. Otherwise, they're not going to attract the right talent. And even if they outsource to the right talent, which is us, they still may not get it to the point that they need to really turn their company into a digital operation that converts sales. And this is exactly what we all do. And this is exactly what we're bringing to the table is you can't just say you're doing it. You can't just be out there throwing things out. We have to be talking about what Joe says, return on investment. It has to be paying for itself. And so that's kind of where we're coming from. So we're basically saying, let's make this happen in such a way that it means something.
You're seeing those. Okay. I thought I was building out what what you were saying is I tell them, okay, the C-level has to get involved, bring sales and marketing together, and think of it. If you only had to do some things out there digitally free or whatever and put it out there, how great is it? And what's your cost of sales if somebody goes, hey, look, I didn't know they had a new camera. They goes, maybe I'll go buy that. Click, it's bought. They don't have to wait for a sales rep to come out there. They don't have to, you're right. You know, people make their buying decisions beforehand. They don't really need a salesperson anymore to go out there to convince them to buy them unless it's a large ticket item. That type of thing where you bring in your team and everything on the corporate side. But it's like, wow, if you can cut out and shrink and compact the time to buy, are you nuts?
Absolutely, absolutely. And a sales team needs to be saddled with the tools as well. And so salespeople can't just go and send out, you know, samples anymore. They have to be digitally aware. And they have to be in the eyes of the people that are buying, because they're not just buying with a face-to-face call anymore.
A warm lead from marketing to sales where they're not totally cold and they call up and they go, hey, have you heard about our new software? And you go, no.
Absolutely. Put the tablet in front of that customer and say, look at what you've been looking at.
And they've already gone through it. You narrow it down. The more they go into your system, the more you know that they're ready to buy. And boom, at the right moment, that's what the salesperson contacts and stays in the current time.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, cool. Well, you know, we're like hour and a half into this. This is amazing. Of course, we have some tech details in the beginning, but I really appreciate everybody that's joined in, and we will be posting this. It's available to all. Build to Grow Summit this weekend, 3 days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We've had over 14 authors and 14 plus bonus speakers adding their education, their expertise, and their detail on how the C-suite can be a better organization and be in this digital world and survive and thrive and sort of be the next big thing, if you would. So I appreciate everybody coming. Anybody else want to have any following final words?
From 1 million to 35 million. We'll look at it. It's not strictly for the 200 billion, that type of thing. Just look at that.
Yeah, it doesn't have to
That's
be.
right. Just look at the ideas that we're presenting, pick and choose a couple of them, and try to implement them. And you're going, oh my God, the big boys did this, or this is what they're looking at. If I can implement one or two of these, I'm going to beat my competitor in my group, and that's what they need to do.
Yep. Awesome. Anybody else?
All good.
Thank you for being with us.
Happy trails.
Soon.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
BuildToGrowSummit.com. Talk soon. Ciao.